Let me tell you something, man. The biggest mistakes we make with women usually don't come from what they say. It comes from what we ignore. You ever meet a woman who seems magnetic? She's fun, confident, maybe even seductive. But something deep inside you whispers, something feels off. Most guys shut that voice down because they don't want to ruin the moment. They think, I'm overthinking, let me just enjoy this. But that little gut feeling, that's your early warning system. Ignore it, and it can cost you years of wasted energy, sleepless nights, and even your self-respect. I've seen too many men walk right into relationships with blinders on, only to wake up months later realizing they ignored all the signs. So today, I want to break this down for you. I'm going to share with you the patterns, the real patterns, that tell you when a woman might not be who you think she is. Not to judge, not to shame, but to protect your future. Because if you can spot these early, you save yourself from being another guy who says, man, I wish I'd known sooner. First sign, comfort with intimacy too fast. Listen, man, I need you to really hear me on this one. There's a massive difference between genuine chemistry and overfamiliarity. A woman who truly values connection, she wants it to unfold naturally. She wants to feel that slow build, the long conversations, the little inside jokes, the nervous excitement before a first kiss. That's how trust, respect, and real attraction are formed. It's supposed to feel like anticipation, not a race. But when you meet a woman who moves into intimacy at lightning speed, like she's ordering fast food, you have to pause. Most guys mistake that for confidence. They think, wow, she's so liberated. She must really be into me. But often, that's not confidence at all. That's repetition. It's a sign those boundaries that are supposed to make intimacy special don't exist anymore. Think of it like a lock that's been picked too many times. At some point, it doesn't protect anything. It just hangs there useless. I'll give you an example. I knew this guy who was head over heels for a girl he met at a party. Within a couple of hours, she kissed him, and he swore it was fate. He told me, man, I've never felt a connection this instant before. He built her up in his mind as the one. But here's the punchline. About a month later, she pulled the exact same move on another guy in the same circle. Same lines, same rhythm, same fast-forward intimacy. That spark he thought was unique was just muscle memory. Here's the danger, my friend. When you confuse speed with depth, you start thinking, she's opening up to me because I'm special. But in reality, there's no emotion exclusivity. You're not chosen, you're slotted into a pattern. And once you see it, you realize there's nothing rare about it all. So don't be fooled by a fast start. Real connection has tension. It has pauses. It has that sweet discomfort of waiting and building something worth protecting. If she's too comfortable too quickly, it might not be because she sees something extraordinary in you. It might be because that line's been erased so many times it doesn't even exist anymore. And brother, you deserve more than being another character in a script she's already run 100 times. Second sign, there's always a wall you can't cross. You ever meet someone who seems open on the surface, but no matter how much time you spend together, something always feels just out of reach? She laughs at your jokes, shares funny stories, maybe even drops in a vulnerable moment or two just to make it feel real. But when you try to go deeper, when you ask about what shaped her, the fears she carries, or what she truly values, she dodges. She pivots. Maybe she cracks a joke, maybe she changes the subject, or maybe she even gets defensive. That right there? That's not a boundary. That's a wall. I knew a guy who dated a woman like this for almost a year, and on the outside it looked solid. She knew everything about him. His childhood, his dreams, the stuff he was ashamed to admit to anyone else. He poured himself into her, thinking the closeness was mutual. But when I asked him what he really knew about her, it was shocking. He couldn't tell me much beyond surface-level details. Some hobbies, a couple of travel stories, maybe a bad breakup she hinted at once. That's it. And here's where it got brutal. The first real conflict hit. Something small at first. But instead of leaning in, instead of working through it, she shut him out. Completely. No discussion, no compromise. It was like she had a secret exit door she'd been standing next to the whole time. And the moment things got real, She walked right through it. He realized then that he hadn't been in a relationship with her. He'd been in a relationship with her performance. That's the danger of the wall, brother. You think you're building something deep, but in reality, you're pouring your heart into a vault you'll never get the key to. And the longer you stay, the more you confuse access to her time with access to her soul. So, if you notice that every time you get close, she locks the door and pulls back, don't ignore it. A healthy boundary lets love grow slowly. But a permanent wall? That guarantees you'll always be on the outside, no matter how much of yourself you give. Third sign, she thrives on male attention. Look, it's one thing for a woman to have a couple guy friends. That's normal. But some women don't just have friends. They've got an entire ecosystem of men orbiting around them. Old flings who still check in, exes who never fully disappear, and just friends who somehow think midnight texts are perfectly acceptable. Her phone is always buzzing. Her social media posts always seem designed to reel in comments, likes, and DMs. It's not random. It's fuel. I remember a buddy of mine who fell into this exact trap. He was dating this girl who seemed amazing at first. Confident, social, magnetic. But after a while, he started noticing the patterns. Every time they were together, her phone would light up with messages. And when he asked about it, she'd laugh it off. Oh, he's just a friend. Except those friends always seem to text a little too often, a little too late, and a little too flirty. At first, my buddy ignored it because he thought, hey, she's with me. That's what matters. But here's the problem. When attention becomes an addiction, one person's love is never enough. It's like a drip feed of reassurance. She needs constant reminders that she's wanted, that she's relevant, that she's attractive. And no matter how much you give, you'll always feel like you're pouring water into a bottomless cup. The worst part? The moment things got rocky between them. And trust me, every relationship hits rough patches. She didn't sit in the discomfort to work it out. She didn't lean into the bond they had. Instead, she reached into that orbit of guys and pulled someone else forward. That backup plan was always there, waiting. And for my friend, it was devastating to realize he'd never been her only choice, just her current choice. That's why this sign is so dangerous. If she thrives on male attention, you'll always be competing in a game you can't win. Because it's not about you, it's about the supply. And if she needs 20 voices to feel secure, your voice will never be enough on its own. Fourth sign, intimacy becomes leverage. This one is tricky, brother, because it doesn't show up on the first date. It sneaks in slowly. At the start, everything feels amazing. The chemistry, the closeness, the passion. You think, this is real. But pay attention to how that intimacy is used when things don't go her way. A healthy woman sees closeness as a way to repair, to bond. But some women, they flip the script. They treat intimacy like a switch they control, on when it benefits them, off when they want to make a point. I remember this guy I knew who was crazy about his girl. But every time he stood up for himself, every time he said no to something she wanted, suddenly the warmth was gone. She'd pull back, act cold, even sleep on the edge of the bed. It wasn't about needing space. It was about showing him who held the power. And then, when he caved or gave her what she wanted, it was like magic. She'd turn sweet, affectionate, loving, as if nothing ever happened. See the problem? That's not love. That's training. It's conditioning you to believe that affection is something you have to earn, not something freely given in a healthy relationship. It's like being rewarded with a treat every time you behave. At first, you don't notice it because the highs feel so good. But over time, you realize the lows are engineered, not natural. The danger here is bigger than just a few fights. Because once intimacy becomes leverage, you're not building trust anymore. You're living in negotiations you never agreed to. Every touch feels conditional. Every smile has strings attached. And the sad part? Most men confuse this for passion, when in reality it's control. So here's the truth. If you ever feel like intimacy is being used to bend your decisions, pay attention. That's not a relationship. That's a power game. And games like that don't end with love. They end with exhaustion. Fifth sign, she reads you too well, too fast. Listen, man, There's a difference between someone genuinely connecting with you and someone who's just good at studying people. Real connection takes patience. It takes time. But some women, they walk into your life and within days, they're mirroring your thoughts, finishing your sentences, dropping compliments that land like they've known you for years. And it feels incredible at first. You think, wow, finally someone who understands me. But think about it. How can someone truly know your character, your scars, your values in a week? They can't. What they can do, though, is pick up on patterns. A woman who's been through enough relationships has run her own field research. She knows what men want to hear, where men usually seek validation, and what tone of voice will disarm them fastest. It's like chess. A beginner takes time to think through every move. But a grandmaster? He's seen the opening 1,000 times. He knows the counter before you even make the play. That's what's happening here. She's not reading you. She's reading the pattern. I'll give you an example. I knew a guy who prided himself on being a deep thinker. He met this woman who instantly praised his intelligence and always asked about his ideas. He swore she was different, that she valued his mind more than anyone ever had. But months later, he noticed she used the exact same lines on other men. She wasn't valuing his mind. She was feeding his ego. And the moment he disagreed with her, she flipped, turning those same observations into subtle digs. What he thought was intimacy was just a tool. That's the trap, bro. When she knows how to lift you up and just as easily knock you down, you start confusing manipulation for passion. You'll ride the highs, thinking she's the only one who gets you, but it's all engineered. Real compatibility doesn't feel like a performance. It feels steady, safe, consistent. So if she's reading you too well, too fast, don't mistake it for soul connection. It might just be rehearsal. 6th sign, no discretion about her past. Bro, let me break this down for you. Everyone has a past. That's just part of being human. But the way someone carries their past tells you a lot about how they view intimacy. A healthy woman might acknowledge she's dated, maybe hint at lessons she's learned, but she won't unpack every detail like it's just casual small talk. Why? Because intimacy, even in memory, still carries weight. Now here's the red flag. If she's casually throwing out graphic stories about exes, hookups, or nights that got wild, and she does it with zero hesitation, that's not honesty, that's desensitization. It's like she's told the story so many times it doesn't mean anything anymore. And if it doesn't mean anything to her, ask yourself, how special will it feel when it's your turn? I'll give you an example. One of my friends dated this girl who seemed so real. That's how he described it. She's open. She tells me everything. She would talk about past hookups, crazy trips, even mistakes she'd made like it was nothing. At first, he thought, this is refreshing. No secrets, no shame. But a few months in, the novelty wore off. He realized that if she could share her most private memories like they were just funny bar stories, then his connection with her wasn't going to feel sacred either, because nothing was sacred to her. Think of it like this. If you walk into a museum and the rarest artifact is just lying around with no glass case, no protection, no spotlight, it doesn't feel rare anymore. That's what happens when a woman treats her past intimacy like everyday anecdotes. It cheapens the weight of what you're building with her. Privacy and discretion aren't about shame. They're about respect. Respect for herself, respect for the person she's with, and respect for the bond she's creating. Without that, everything starts to feel recycled. And trust me, man, you don't want to build a future with someone who treats the most personal parts of life like yesterday's gossip. 7th sign, a history of short-term flames. Listen, man, patterns tell you more than promises ever will. I knew this guy who dated a woman who seemed incredible. Smart, funny, beautiful, magnetic. But when I asked him about her past relationships, every single one of them lasted 3 months, maybe 6 at best. At first, he brushed it off, said, she just hasn't met the right one yet. But I told him, bro, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern. See, some people aren't actually searching for love. They're searching for a high. They crave the butterflies, the dopamine hit of late-night texts, the rush of someone new thinking they're perfect. And the second that glow fades, when the first disagreements pop up, or when real effort is required, they check out. Not because the connection wasn't real, but because the thrill wasn't there anymore. And here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Love doesn't really begin until after that honeymoon phase ends. That's when it gets tested. That's when the masks come off. When you're not showing her your highlight reel anymore. That's when real intimacy takes work. Patience, forgiveness, compromise. If she's never made it past that stage with anyone, she hasn't built the muscle it takes to sustain something lasting. My buddy learned this the hard way. After a few months of bliss, little cracks started to show. She stopped texting as much, started making excuses, suddenly claimed she wasn't ready for something serious. It wasn't about him, it was about her cycle. She was addicted to the spark, not the fire. And once the spark dimmed, she went looking for it somewhere else. Here's what you got to remember. The past isn't just history, it's a preview. If every connection she's had ends the same way, fast, intense, and short, chances are yours won't be the magical exception. You'll just be the next chapter in the same story. And man, you deserve more than being another name on her list of almosts. So, let me bring this all home, brother. These 7 signs, they're not about shaming someone or keeping score like you're tallying points. They're about protecting yourself, protecting your energy, your peace, your future. Too many men fall in love with the potential of a woman, the fantasy of who she could be if she just changed a little, healed a little, loved a little deeper. And then one day, they wake up drained, realizing they ignored the red flags that were waving right in front of their face the whole time. Here's the reality. Patterns don't lie. If you see fast intimacy that feels practiced, emotional walls that never come down, a constant orbit of men providing her attention, intimacy used like currency, the way she reads and controls too quickly, the casual way she shares her past without discretion, or a history of short-term flings that always burn out the same way. Those aren't random quirks. That's a blueprint. And once you see the blueprint, you can't pretend you didn't. That's when the decision is yours. Either walk into it with your eyes open, knowing exactly what you're signing up for, or have the courage to step away and protect your standards. Because your peace, your dignity, your future, they're worth more than any short-term rush or surface-level thrill. The right woman, and trust me, she's out there, won't make you question your value. She won't drain your energy. She won't need 100 men's attention to validate herself. She'll be steady. She'll be real. And you won't have to decode games just to feel secure. So guard yourself, my friend, because the wrong woman will cost you years, but the right one will multiply your life in ways you can't imagine. And when you hold your standards, when you protect your peace, you'll be able to tell the difference every single time.